Yes, guys, how you doing? Welcome back to the Spurs Talk Show. I am Sean Butler. Bugsy Malone's just down here in the shade. We've just been launching the balls for her over the back here in Surrey. Beautiful day, beautiful morning, and I hope you are all happy and healthy doing the things that you love with those you love to do them with. Guys, do me a favour. Your light game is incredibly strong. It always has been. I hope it always will be. And as the wind is picking up here and I'm worried about the camera getting blown over, I would love to ask you if you can smash the like button for me on the video if you enjoy these updates. Also, guys, today's video, whilst there are some transfer news, views and clues for you, the updates around stories that are emerging, an old name that from, I think, 18 months ago is back into the zeitgeist, which we're going to be talking about just shortly. But I do need your help figuring out what we're going to do with some of the other news around the club with regards Udogie and Lucas Berghvall and things that are kind of percolating out there in the Tottenham zeitgeist. And I don't know what it means for Wednesday. I'm trying to figure it out, and I'm going to have to kind of hypothesize and kind of, I don't know, guesstimate some changes here. So I need your help. So get lively in the comment section. Hit the notification bell as well if you want to see these updates first. And also, I've done it all, haven't I? Hit the subscribe button. We're on the march to 30k. Guys, let's start with the transfer news, views and clues, get the bit out of the way, which is fun. Maddison. Remember Maddison? Incredibly balanced right back. Plays for Monaco now. A player that Tottenham have been linked with for many a year. He was actually going to be, I think it was the initial, instead of Emerson Royal, or the replacement for Emerson Royal before we signed Pedro Porro, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around that time where we had Emerson and Porro and we weren't sure which one of those was coming in. I can't remember the timelines, but he was the name. And I remember doing a hell of a lot of research into him. I haven't done or followed his story too much since, but I did take a look at the stats on FB Refs this morning for you. I'll see if I can throw them on the screen. Look, he doesn't seem to have dropped his game at all over in Monaco. Good team, good player, right? Very balanced, but a player that you like to see from a right-back spot or a right wing-back spot. I think he could do both. Someone that doesn't just kind of rely on one aspect of the game. You know, people could say that Emerson Royal wasn't good enough going forward. Don't say that to Emerson Royal. But on the backside, he was incredibly disciplined, good at the back post, headers and all that sort of thing. But Pedro Porro, we went with that direction instead. More of a right wing back, traditionally. Probably one of the most technically gifted players in the Premier League. Certainly one of the best crossers of the ball outside of the sort of traditional big 5 or 6, I guess. And but where he lacks, obviously, is defensively. So sometimes his concentration and his experience and maybe his lack of height, lack of inches, I guess. And there I go again, always talking about height. I'm not heightist, I promise you. I think it could be problematic at times. So if you could blend that kind of two of Emerson Royal and Pedro Porro, then you'd have a really well-rounded right back. And I think in Maddison, you have a little bit of both there. I think you do have a guy who knows how to get back, be disciplined. His stats very much support it. He loves to get on the ball. I think he, from memory, you'll see it on the screen here in a second, but I think he gets about 77 or so touches on average per game. So clearly he is a necessary part of the jigsaw at Monaco and a vital cog into their system. And when you have a right back that gets that sort of high amount of touches, I think that's in the top sort of 10 or so percentile for players in that position, then as long as you can make use of it, get forward, get back, then it's a very useful sort of player to have. And for me, Maddison does have that balance. Like I say, defensively, the stats are not in any way problematic for me. Very impressive, up there in the sort of top 15th percentile for most of the things you'd look for in a wing back or a full back. In terms of getting forward, he certainly is also incredibly handy. No concerns there. His passing range is excellent. He knows how to get the ball long, medium or short into where it needs to be. Right up there. Like, it's green bars galore. He's not at the very, very highest end, but he's a very useful player. And if Pedro Porro is going to leave the club, then I do think that Tottenham need to make the right move in this position. It's such a key position for any system right now. Even if you go to 4-3-3, there seems to be a bit of a trend, a cyclical fashion right now of some of the bigger teams that are pivoting towards, or maybe not the biggest of all the teams, but the teams that are trying to kind of chomp at the bit to get in and amongst the contenders for titles are very adaptable and don't mind going into a back 3 system. And so you need a player in that right wing spot or that right wing back spot or the right full back spot, similar on the left hand side, that can do a bit of both, that can play as a right back and be defensively resolute, but also if they're asked to play at the right wing back, then they have no problems being that width, being that creator. Think of what teams like Fulham do with their width in a back four system, and obviously think about what Manchester United, for example, are trying to create with their back three system, and also Crystal Palace, you can argue as well with that Munoz guy. So for me, I just think it's a sensible decision, and I think if Tottenham Hotspur are going to liquidate Pedro Porro, then that wouldn't be a bad shot. And I guess given the history of communications between the agents for that previous transfer that may have happened, that might be a way to kind of expedite the process, because I think right now, guys, there is a growing, an emerging narrative that the big boys around us are getting business done early, and it's a little bit concerning. I understand that Tottenham Hotspur are in a bit of a kind of rock and a hard place situation, whereby, you don't know what you don't know. You can't do the main bulk of your business early if you don't have the key decision makers in place, and we don't know yet. Maybe the club do behind the scenes. We'd hope that there's decision making. I've been saying this for the last couple of weeks. We'd hope that there's decision making that has been taking place with the likely inbound Fabio Paratici, and certainly the due to be inbound Vinny in the CEO role. But we don't know what the likes of Johan Langer are. Those guys just putting their feet up because they're probably worried about their job security. If there is the inbound Paratici coming in, is he going to want to come in and do things his way? I would imagine he would. I've said this a few times, that why would he come back to Tottenham unless there's conditions that will be added to his contract that weren't in place before, where he could be overruled? And I would imagine that a guy that has the ear of Daniel Levy also has the leverage in the negotiation, given Tottenham's predicament right now, where he can actually lean in and say, listen, you focus on this. I need the final say on this sort of thing here. So with him and Vinny, maybe the Vinny has the accounting side of it and the commercial side as well. Maybe those two can kind of work and join forces and create those decisions that don't have to always go back to Daniel Levy for approval. We'll see. Wait and see on that one. For what it's worth, there was stories out this morning from Sport Bild in Germany, which is usually a fairly sort of steady resource to go to for all things German connections. And they said that Daniel Levy is incredibly interested and excited by the prospect of securing Mathys Tel. Now, park your own personal opinions on Mathys Tel for a moment. You know how I feel. I think there's something in it, although I said last night on the show with Sava and Lubo on the first version of the context that I can't really support my argument with the stats and the data, because the data doesn't really tell the story that I believe to be true, which is that he is someone that has a lot to offer. He's getting better and better, and at the end of the season, when everyone around him is not putting in any effort in the games against West Ham and Crystal Palace, and even in the second half against Bodo, for example, not that the team didn't put any effort in that game, but the point I'm making is that there is a trend here that sometimes the team can be really lacklustre in their effort at times over the last few months, and yet Mathys Tel has seemingly got better and better and better, and I think that is maybe an intangible, something that you can't necessarily qualify or quantify through the data, but for sure is something that I look for in a player that's trying to prove themselves and be a part of the team. I think he has a desire, an inbuilt hunger to participate, and I think that that's not something I can share. That's not an accolade that I would necessarily attribute to other players that should be auditioning or trying to prove Ange Postecoglou wrong, and why it is that they're not necessarily in the plans for next Wednesday night. Either way, that wasn't the point of the story. The point of the story was that Bild is saying that Daniel Levy is really excited by the prospect of getting the Mathys Tel deal finalised and hopefully negotiating it down, and that Bayern Munich are open-minded and willing to listen to offers and are expecting a lower bid to come in. And that, to me, I guess, flies in the face of the narrative of which I've been hoping, and so has Johnny, and so has Henry, and the people we've been speaking to, Sava and Lubo, for example, that any new incarnation of Tottenham Hotspur through the summer with the likes of Vinny and the likes of Paratici, that Daniel Levy will have a backward step. So if Daniel Levy is pushing hard for this, or if there's truth to that story, then that's a little bit of a disappointment, because I was hoping right now that you would see Daniel Levy be a little bit less on the front foot with regards these decisions. However, at the same time, as I've said, it seems like there's this emerging trend that teams like Liverpool, teams like Arsenal, teams like Manchester United even, who are still stuck in their own quandary right now, because they don't know where they're going to be until next Wednesday night. They don't know whether they'll be in the Champions League or nowhere. They don't know if they're going to have an extra £80 million or nothing at all. And yet even they seemingly are closing in on the signatures of players like Liam Delap, who I would love to see at Tottenham for £30 million, which really isn't a lot of money. And I think that Tottenham Hotspur should absolutely be onto that one. And if they're not, I don't really understand why they're not, because I think universally most people would suggest, even those that do support Richie more than I do, that he's probably not of the level, and that Solanke needs different competition, at least someone that's more readily available more often, and Liam Delap certainly is that sort of player. But if Manchester United are moving in that direction, then you have to kind of ask, why is it that Tottenham can't? Also, camera's just disappeared on me, forgive me one second. You have to also kind of wonder a little bit here, why is it that that Manchester United are also capable of sort of closing in on that Matheus Cunha deal, another player that would absolutely make a ton of sense for Tottenham to be looking at. He is a top draw player. Where's Bugsy Malone gone? I don't know where she is. I hope she's okay. Let me know in the background. Let me know in the comments if she's okay. But Manchester United are making moves. Liverpool, right? We were talking about Pedro Porro a minute ago. Well, Trent Alexander-Arnold is obviously going on a free transfer to Real Madrid, and so they need a new incarnation at right back. And it looks like, at times, Pedro Porro was going to be on that shortlist. That seems to have died off a little bit in the last couple of days as they have moved and turned their attention to Frimpong from Germany, from the Bundesliga. And he is a fantastic, scary player. Very, very terrifying, and someone that would absolutely, I think, offer something different to what Liverpool have. I think he has more pace, more agility, and more kind of traditional wing-back roles, but he certainly isn't any slouch with the ball at his feet either. He knows how to get it from A to B. A brilliant, brilliant prospect to join Liverpool, and I think you can just see a lot of business going to be taking place at Liverpool this year. They haven't traditionally been a team that sort of churns through players every single season, bringing 3 in, letting 3 go. It seems like they get a squad together, they let them settle, let them develop, and then they bring in 1 or 2 here and there where necessary. But in reality, there are periods where they go through a rebuild, and I would imagine that this summer is going to be one of those. Oh, this camera's gone again. Excuse me, come back. Doesn't want to look at me today, does he? And so that's interesting, right? And there's going to be a merry-go-round. Like you can imagine some sort of like knock-on effect, a domino effect there, because of Trent Alexander-Arnold's position. The right back is such a crucial area for so many of the team. Well, every team, as I said at the start, the right back and the left back are phenomenally important in getting it right, because it doesn't matter whether you're playing a back 3 or a back 4, wing backs or full backs. Most systems right now do have some sort of level of inversion at the highest end of the pitch, and so getting the right guy in, if you're losing a certain guy, is crucial to making sure that you're not going to be kind of behind the 8 ball throughout next season. And Liverpool have a lot to maintain in that regard. And with Trent leaving, is Frimpong the right choice? I think any team in world football would love to see Frimpong come in. So if they go in that direction, what does that mean? And how is what's going to be the replacement for him at his previous club? What's going to happen with Manchester City? They're looking at Pedro Porro as to our teams in Spain. And as I say, if Tottenham can command a 60-70 million pound bid, maybe even slightly larger for Pedro Porro, then do you go in that direction with Vanderson? Possibly. But either way, when you look around the world of football and you're seeing that Arsenal are already closing in, they've got the here we go on the Real Sociedad man whose name Zubamendi, I was going to say his name escapes me, Zubamendi, to bring back that double pivot. We don't know if Mikel Merino is going to be as advanced as he has been for Arsenal of late, but what we can tell you is that traditionally, when those two played together at Real Sociedad, they were the best 2 double pivot model, if you like, in European football last season. And so, or the season before last, if you're thinking about last season as this season, whatever. Either way. So that's a terrifying prospect, as too is the idea that they're going to sign Gyökeres. That looks like it's almost done as well. And so Arsenal are making moves. Liverpool are making moves. Manchester United seemingly making moves. And Manchester United, look, they're not in the same ballpark as Tottenham in terms of all the other things that are changing. It's pretty likely, it's almost, from what I can gather, a certainty that they're still going to stick with Ruben Amorim, regardless of the result, although there are reports out that Mourinho might come back to Manchester United for one last kind of dance. And so that's an interesting story. But with Tottenham, so many things that are changing in all likelihood. Scott Munn probably on his way out. Ange Postecoglou probably on his way out, according to reports. That's up for debate with a lot of you, I know, but I'm just saying what's in the report. And Johan Lang possibly also gone as well. Then are we really going to be looking at profiles of players? Are those people really going to be wasting their time right now, worried too much about what we do next if they don't even know if they'll be here next season? I'm sure Johan Lang might have been profiling players for the last 3 or 4 months around what we might look like, what we might need, but that's probably based on what he would think that the Ange Postecoglou system needs. Unfortunately, if you don't know what your manager's going to be doing, and also you've got Fabio Paratici, who's going to want to come in and have his own stamp, and you have therefore a current quote-unquote chief scout, whatever you want to call Johan Lang, then he's probably not going to have his intentions or his best wishes met. And also at the same time, you might be even, like I say, guilty of thinking, and you'd understand why, that he's put his feet up. So you just hope that the wheels are still turning in the background, because it's such a crucial time, such a crucial moment. The stakes couldn't be higher. The sliding doors moment, we said it all 1,000 times, that what happens on Wednesday is so crucial. But regardless of the result, you really just hope that we're not going to be fishing in the bargain basement come August, because all of the big transfers, all of the big names, all of the ones that you could have got have already gone in other directions, whilst we are still trying to figure out who it is that's making key decisions at Tottenham. As I said it before, said it 1,000 times, it is a massive, massive moment. And I just hope that Daniel Levy and that hopefully Vinny and Paratici, they know that their roles are secure, they know that they're coming in, they know the decisions that are going to be made, and that those guys can get to work and have been getting to work already. Hi mate, how you doing?
Mate, you all right?
Good, thank you. So that's the Maddison story, guys, and the Pedro Porro story. Obviously, like I say, there's noise out with regards everything else and the movements, and it's a little bit concerning. Now let's get to the team news around what we've heard from internally at the club. So there's some good news and some bad news with that regard, right? So the first one is that Decky may not, in all likelihood, be anything like 100% fit for Wednesday. He won't be playing on Friday by all accounts, and so the last chance to kind of demonstrate your fitness for him, is gone. And this is a player that's already returning and struggled to get back to full fitness since his return from his injury earlier on in the season. And he really hasn't been firing on all cylinders, which has been problematic. Now, right now, you'd love to have James Maddison come back in, but he's gone, he's out. So what do you do? Right, and this is where I need your help, guys. This is really where I need your help. Obviously, you're going to play on Friday night. I think we can all agree that Sonny needs to prove his fitness. In the kind of cameo that he got against Crystal Palace, he didn't do anything. He's obviously nowhere near match fit. He's trying to get himself back. If you can understand the intentions of the players to hurry up to try to get back in time for their final because they all want to be a part of it. But does that mean that they're going to be guilty of saying that they're ready to run before they can really walk? Of course, we can reflect back on what happened with Harry Kane and that Lucas Moura should have been played in the final ahead of him, and at best he should have come off the bench. But he didn't. That wasn't to be. He came in and it was a big mistake. Now, I wonder about Heung Min's son. And in an otherwise alternate universe, another timeline of reality where Sonny and everybody else in the squad was fully fit, I would be absolutely embarking on a narrative of he shouldn't be starting. In no way, shape or form does he deserve to, on his recent merit, on his fitness, or on any other level other than it's Sonny and it's his final. He's been here 10 years and so on, some kind of romantic notion of sensitivity to that cause, then you can put him in. But again, are we doing what's right for the person here, or are we doing what's right for the team? And based on the things I've just mentioned, I would say he shouldn't be there. However, with Maddison out and Decky looking likely to be completely unfit in time for the final, it leaves you with a real headache where you might have to play Sonny anyway, regardless of his fitness, because you don't really have that many other options. Now, where do you go for the 10 solution, guys? And I need your help here. If your options up the top end of the pitch are a 50% fit Sonny, a 25% fit Decky, a fully fit Matisse Tell, a fully fit Wilson Odobert, but Odobert still doesn't get that many minutes, a fully fit, but let's be honest, unproven and, in my opinion, not ready Micky Moore, and then Richalison and Solanke, then it leaves you, and Johnson, of course, Brennan Johnson, then it leaves you in a really difficult spot. To me, I think that the obvious sort of solution here, people would say you play Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side, you play either Sonny or Matisse Tell on the left-hand side. You might have to therefore play Richarlison in the 9 and Solanke in like the false 9, in the 10, and make it like a sort of go back to like an old school 4-4-2 type of role. I don't really... It doesn't really make sense to me. Normally, naturally, I would say if you don't have a 10, you don't have any creativity, then you need your 6 to be able to switch the play, and you need 2 men that can take your players on so that you can avoid the problems of no creativity through the middle by having a dual front attacking force. So you'd get someone, whoever your favourite take-on specialist, Sonny on the left and an Odobert on the right, for example. And at least that way you can split the defence. The defence aren't going to know whether to double up or man mark over on the wings because it's unpredictable around which direction you're going to go in. But Tottenham don't do that. If you have Brennan Johnson on the right-hand side, then you know that the right-hand side is used basically as the back post killer. And as an attacking force, it gets down that way, gets pulled back to Pedro Porro, who then whips the ball in, and you hope that you get some aerial sort of disturbance from the likes of Richarlison or Solanke. Both of which I'm comfortable with, but the absence of that 10 being able to create and pull the trigger and do the locksmith stuff, to me is really, really problematic. Down the left-hand side, you have a guy in Sonny that doesn't have, in 9 out of 10 appearances this year, doesn't have that confidence in his own game, nor does he have that acceleration for the most part to be able to take players on. And so you're really then looking quite blunt up front, in my opinion, and that to me is a massive issue. What it could mean is that it forces the issue for Ange Postecoglou to have no other option other than to sit in and to protect and try to pick them off on the counter and use the pace of Sonny, use the pace of Brennan Johnson et al. To be able to kind of draw Man United in and then go. That might be the logical solution here because of the creative absence. Or you could go in a different direction, and this one's a little bit kind of speculative here, but maybe you could play Micky Moore. There's a lot of people out there that think that Micky Moore is deserving of his chance, but do you do that in the final? It's a big game. Maybe come of the hour, come of the man. Maybe it's just one of those moments that is an absolute game changer for him and the trajectory of his career. He comes into the 10 and just pulls out a worldie. I'd be surprised if he wasn't gobbled up by the likes of Casemiro, or Ugarte. He hasn't had that experience where he's had to play against two physical beasts in that double pivot that they might be playing on the night. So I think that it's a kind of a romantic notion to think that could work, but I don't really think that's the best option. I think that you're probably going to need to have some strength in there, some sort of creativity, and Dominic Solanke is probably the better option of the two. That's, like I say, presuming that Decky's not fully fit. I'd love to know your thoughts though, guys, because it really isn't clear and clean to me. The other news, which is kind of the better side of the debate here, is that Lucas Berghvall is back in training apparently, and that there's rumours that he might actually be fit. And again, I think it would be amazing to have him back. For me, he is a master controller for someone so young. I'm blown away by his willingness to get on the ball and his ability to do things in tight control. I think he's also got that vision to pop the balls into the channels and to create things out of nothing, which is a really useful tool. And, you know, it would be great to have him on the bench, but let's be honest, are we going to be, I'm reminding myself now, I've already said this before, but are we going to be guilty of listening to players who are saying that they're ready to run when they're not even ready to walk because they're desperate to be back for the final? I think you can make the argument for that for Decky, you can make the argument for Sonny, and you can make the argument for Lucas Berghvall. And on all three occasions, those three are integral and crucial at fully fit, but if they're not fully fit, then they can be, that can be weak, and that can be vulnerabilities and create holes in our kind of rest defence that is just too concerning for such a big game. So at the moment, I'm scratching my head a little bit around what is the best solution. I will continue to chew this over on the stream over the next couple of days, and we'll figure it out together. But do drop me a comment, guys. Let me know what your thoughts are. I think the back five picks itself. Vicario, Porro, Van der Ven, Romero, and obviously Udogie. You're going to need that support from Udogie on the left-hand side if we do go down the left-hand side and have Sonny out there or have Matthias Tell. I think probably, arguably, right now, I'd play Matthias Tell on the left-hand side ahead of Sonny, unless Sonny plays 90 minutes against Villa on Friday and looks something like back to his best, which I think is a massive, long shot. If I'm entirely honest, I just can't imagine that he's going to be anything like ready for Bilbao, and I hope that, as I say, Tottenham make the right decision for the team and not for the player. As much as I would like to see him start, I think it's better to have him on the bench. So if you place Matthias Tell out on the left-hand side, you could go with Richalison on the left-hand side, like we've seen recently, and then Solanke at the top in the 9. And off the right, you'd have Brennan Johnson, so nothing really changes there, but it still leaves that gap in what do you do in the 10. And I don't think that you can really see Bentancur come into the 10. I just, you know, are we going to suggest here that there's an option where you might play Bissouma, Bentancur and Sarr? I don't think so. I don't think Pape Sarr has the speed of footwork. He certainly hasn't got the speed of thought. He's a brilliant sort of ground coverer, ground gobbler upper, and his ability to intercept and anticipate and do those things is really quite unique. But for me, his mind works a little bit too slow relative to his feet when he's running and charging with the ball, and his distribution can be poor. And again, getting picked off in games like that by Manchester United, who do have pace on the wings that can hurt you, is very problematic, especially if you've got Garnacho and the other guy whose name escapes me on the right-hand side. My memory's not working today, guys. I apologise. So it's problematic, guys. Decky's absence is a real deal, a real blow if it's true. We'll find out if he plays on Friday. If he's fit and he doesn't play, I don't know, should we read into that he's being rested because we can't take any chances? Or do we read into that he hasn't been given his opportunity to prove his fitness in an otherwise dead rubber for us? Don't forget, it's probably the worst team you want to play in a game just before your European Cup final is Aston Villa, because they're a very nasty, aggressive team. The likes of McGinn, the likes of Matty Cash, they're big, strong, tough players, and they've got it's a big game for them. They need 3 points for their Champions League qualification, and so expect them to be aggressive, expect them to be heavy in the tackle, because there seems to also be a little bit of I don't know, some sort of relationship between the two clubs that is becoming a little bit bitter, a little bit nasty. So you wouldn't be surprised to see something aggressive. So in terms of what do we do on Friday, look, for me, it's just the players that need to prove their fitness, you give them the chance. Everybody else is youth. I don't want to see anybody else. I don't know why we took the risk with Decky. It's madness, but it is what it is. We've been hurt by that. Anyway, Vanderson's the story. Pedro Porro maybe got on his way. Let me know your thoughts. Is Vanderson a good replacement? And apart from that, how the God's green earth do we find the mechanism to become creative and also have width without sacrificing vulnerabilities through the middle by playing people that are less than 80% fit? Like, subscribe and comment, guys. I'll see you on the streams later. Take care. Bye-bye.